Alice Waters is the world-renowned pioneer of the farm-to-table movement, and she is celebrated for her devotion to locally grown organic food. Her zeal about introducing those foods into the lives and experiences of school children so that they are growing their own food, harvesting their own food, and enjoying the bounty of their own food together and in harmony with each other and the natural environment. She has profoundly influenced not only the way Americans think about food, but her battle is far greater, involving food policies in Washington, D.C., and schools and kitchens everywhere. Alice is engaged in a lifetime call about eating and producing foods that are healthy for people and healthy for the earth, which is the inspiration for Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign against obesity in our nation's young people. Chef, author, and proprietor of the Chez Panisse restaurant in Berkeley, Alice Waters is also at the helm of the Chez Panisse Foundation, advocating for food economy that is good, clean, and fair. For almost 40 years, her restaurant has worked with ingredients that are fresh and pure. Her commitment to education for change has led to the creation of the Edible Schoolyard at Berkeley's Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School, a 1-acre garden where kids farm, learn, and taste what they have grown. It is a model public education program with an eco-gastronomic curriculum that is nationally recognized for involving kids with gardening, cooking, and sharing. The same knowledge and values that Alice believes we need to build a more humane and sustainable future. She's the author of 9 books, the most recent one written jointly with her daughter Fanny, and she has taken time from her whirlwind book tour to be with us here this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about the importance of philanthropy and passion. Please join me in welcoming Alice Waters.
Well, goodness, I think he said everything. I just want you to know that it's very rare for me to come at breakfast time. Very rare, and I can't imagine sort of giving a keynote speak at this, being the keynote speaker at this moment in time. And so I thought maybe I would begin by showing you a little movie. And then I'll comment on it afterwards. It is one that we've made for the 20th anniversary of the Edible Schoolyard project. And I think it gives you a little overview of our program. So why don't we show that right now?
Edible education is an education in life. How to grow up and be healthy.
Food is the conduit. Food is the icebreaker. Food is what brings people together.
We invite students into the classroom and we invite them to fall in love.
The garden becomes your teacher. It's that garden that teaches the values that we need to live on this planet.
Edible education is not an add-on. It's not something extra that you might put into your school. It's actually at the heart of your school.
Food connects us to politics, it connects us to the environment, it connects us to the health of our families and of our communities and of our planet.
Having independence about what food you choose and why you choose it and how to make it makes us better citizens in the world in which we live.
There is not a single academic subject that cannot be enlivened and enriched through edible education.
We use the act of growing food as a medium for teaching science, for teaching math, for teaching collaboration and how to work with people who are different than you.
Edible education is interactive. And so you're not thinking of a classroom as just chairs and tables and somebody in the front teaching. This is a whole different kind of pedagogy.
Many kids aren't inspired by paper and pencil, but are inspired by the paper and pencil when it's connected to something real. Edible education has changed my idea about what education is and what it could be.
When children are scheduled to go into the garden or the kitchen, their attendance is perfect. They do not miss school on the days that they are coming to the kitchen.
Edible education is also really integrally involved with what's happening in that cafeteria.
I can go into a district, I can change all the systems that are needed. I can change the facilities, I can change the food, I can train the staff. But if I don't have that student engagement piece, they're just not gonna eat it. Edible education gets kids excited about eating real food.
Over the last 2 decades, the amount of inquiry that we have around how do I do this in my community? How do I set it up? What do I need to know? It became so overwhelming. So in 2009, we decided to create the Edible Schoolyard Academy.
Welcome. Really glad you're here.
Are you here also for the academy?
Yeah.
Hi.
Liz.
Jason. Liz. Nice to meet you too.
We take 100 people who come to us from all over the world, and we distill everything that we know and share it. One of the wonderful things about this work is that it's applicable to every person and to every community.
My name's Jake Perrin. I'm from North Country Schools in Lake Placid, New York.
Patrick Caulfield, and I work at the Baltimore Montessori Public Charter School.
I live in Denver, Colorado.
I'm a chef and restaurateur in Sacramento, California.
I'm from the David School, which is in David, Kentucky.
We're a team from Salmon, Idaho, Salmon School Garden Project, and we're just starting a brand new school garden program.
It's been really great to share ideas and share resources and just realize that you're not alone. It's inspiring to be a part of this wildfire of change.
I'm taking these notes, I'm taking pictures, and I'm sending them back to my colleague. I'm like, we got to implement this, we have to do this.
I don't think I've ever been to a conference that so filled up both my heart and my head. I've just been so excited every day to be here.
When we first started our school garden, it seemed like a daunting task, and now it kind of seems like we can do this.
People come from around the country, from around the world, to feel part of a movement.
In 2012, we had 600 programs on the Edible Schoolyard Network. Now we have 5,000 programs. It's not going to be very long before we have 50,000 programs.
This edible education movement is picking up steam.
We want every school in America to have an edible schoolyard. Every child in this country deserves an edible education.
We need to do what JFK did back in the 60s. He wanted physical education to be taken by every student as part of the core curriculum. We really need to do the same thing for edible education. Nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Well, that is really true. Its time has come. And I wish you could all come over to the Edible Schoolyard in Berkeley, and you're all invited to come. We give tours all of the time throughout the year, and when you walk into it, there are 1,000 teenage kids. This is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And at home, they speak 22 different languages. So it's a really good test case. I didn't plan that to begin with. It happens to be a school near Chez Panisse, and I used to go by it as I went home every day, and noticed the weeds in the front and the graffiti on the windows, the dilapidated look, and I said, how could this be a public school in the enlightened city of Berkeley, California, with the University of California right up the street? And so I made a comment like that, and the principal of the school called me up. He said, can you come into my office? And I said, well, yes, I could. And when I went to visit him, he had imagined, because he heard that we were somehow connected with gardens, that I would beautify the school grounds. And when we walked around, and this campus was built in 1917, 1921 on 17 acres of land for 500 students. So you can imagine how perfectly wonderful it was back when. And of course, there's twice as many students, and most of it was turned into blacktop. But there was a vacant a sort of a place where they had portable buildings and broken up asphalt and all of that, not used. And so Neil Smith and I walked around the school, and I just kept thinking, Montessori teacher that I was way back before Chez Panisse. And by the way, I saw that Montessori school here at Blackhawk. I felt welcomed by that. It's the first thing I saw, how beautiful it is to have that program here. But we looked around, and I had the whole vision from the very beginning, that there was a possibility of making a garden that would be connected to the academics of the school. Not really a garden to teach gardening per se, but a garden that could be the laboratory for teaching all of the academic subjects. So that's what happens at the Edible Schoolyard. The kids come into the garden as part of their math or their science class. And while they're digging and calculating those seeds, they are picking the ripe raspberries and tasting those. They're outside. They don't feel like they're in school. They feel like they're outside doing a project together. It's quite amazing how nature does its work. I mean, a little bit at the beginning, they were a little afraid. They didn't want to get their shoes dirty. And now, you know, it's 6 weeks to kale. It's just, they get this because it's inside them. It's deep down that nature is their mother. And somehow they've been taken away from that experience because of the way that we have changed public education and its curriculum. So, talking to Neil Smith, just to get to the big picture, I said, oh goodness, we could have a garden here at the school. And maybe we should have a classroom kitchen so we could teach in that laboratory as well. We could teach history and study the grains of that, the food of that place, which is what we do. We take them on the Silk Road in China and we cook the food that they would eat along the way. So they're tasting, digesting their history. So I saw also a beautiful cafeteria. I said, that little snack shop won't work at the end of the factory. Let's build a big, beautiful cafeteria that could be the heart of the school, where we could feed every child for free. They could sit together at tables. It's so important. We could even make school lunch an academic subject. Imagine that. We could be, right now, learning Spanish, speaking Spanish, and eating something from Mexico. Eating a little tortilla with egg. How lovely that would be to learn Spanish at the table. Or it could be a guidance class. Or it could be just a nutrition class where you're learning what's on your plate and where it came from. So I told Neil all about this and how kids would understand being in these classrooms, that they would learn the most important values we need to have for living together on this planet. We need to know how to take care of the land. We need to know how to nourish ourselves. And very, very importantly, we need to know how to communicate around the table. We need to know those things. It's a basic, it's an elementary education, and it needs to be universally understood. So I imagined that the school lunch should be free for every child. It's the place of equality. Now just imagine what could happen if 20% of the population of this country is in school. If we put in a criteria for the buying of food to be supporting the local sustainable farmers and ranchers, fishermen, all the producers, just imagine we could change farming overnight. We could bring the values of the farm into the schools. And that's the beautiful thing that happened at Chez Panisse. I just knew at the beginning that I wanted tasty food for the restaurant. I was obsessed because I had eaten in France and I had tasted things I had never had before. And I wanted those for myself always in my life. I wanted those little wild strawberries and that baguette and those oysters on the half shell, and I wanted that. So I started looking for it. And I thought if I opened a restaurant, it would come somehow. But it didn't. It didn't. And we went to the ethnic markets in Chinatown in San Francisco. And I wanted to buy the ducks because they looked like the ducks that were hanging in markets in France. But they didn't taste like them. And I went to the little outdoor markets. There weren't very many back then. But the salad didn't taste like the salad. So what we ended up doing was going out to the farms nearby. We went out to the farm stands. And then I started planting seeds in my backyard garden from France. And we grew salad for the restaurant. And then we really became connected to all of the local producers in this whole area. We have 87 different people during the course of the year that we buy food from, completely seasonally and right. And I think the restaurant has been successful for these years. I hope we have a little hospitality there, but I am telling you, it's because of the food. People come because it not only tastes good, but it's really, really nourishing. And I know that that's the secret to engaging children, that if it tastes good, they completely get it. When they're eating second-rate fruits and vegetables all year long, they will never get it. They will never get it. But when they go out and they pick it themselves, I promise you, it's the one thing I have learned that's an absolutely a truth of edible education. When they grow it and they cook it, they all want to eat it. And that's a truth. So it's that engagement. So it's really about that. And I know that Gloria Steinem has been talking all around the city with her new book. And it makes me think of something she said maybe 5 years ago, which has been really powerful and important to me. I keep saying it to myself. The public school system is our last truly democratic institution. It's the place where we can reach every child. We can bring every child into a new relationship to food and to the environment. And we really, that's what we need to do. We need to do this, use the pleasure principle. Don't tell children, this is a very basic Montessori idea. It's not, don't eat that. It's come over here and sit at the table. And we'd like you to enjoy this with your friends. And they come over there. And they get engaged. And all of the bad behavior disappears. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to teach. And so I hope you'll all you're all deputized. Let's put it this way. You're all deputized this morning to advocate for this delicious revolution. Thank you so much.